Dmytro Shkurko, you are a friend and also a colleague of Roman Sushchenko, who is currently in prison in Russia. Can you tell us a bit about Roman as a colleague in the Ukrainian news agency?
He is one of our leading journalists. In fact, he is, because we consider him like our colleague till now, and we hope very much sooner or later he will come back. He was a staff correspondent for National News Agency of Ukraine in Paris for 6 years, still since 2010. And in 2016 he was arrested, then coming to Moscow to visit relatives. In fact, it was quite strange because he was arrested the same day when he arrived, so that from our perspective it was some kind of trap. The special forces, special services just put him.
The accusation that he faced was that he was a spy. Is there any justification, as far as you can see, for this accusation? I mean, one of the stories he uncovered that you mentioned in your presentation was a story about the sale of Mistral helicopters to Russia. Do you think this sort of exposure is what gave him this sort of label as a troublemaker?
It could be one of the reasons, because Mistral was one of the topics. As a very active journalist, he was writing about the war that Russia brought against Ukraine, and about international reaction, and also he applied to international community about entire problem, including, by the way, about the problem of political prisoners. So he had a very active civil position. What was the reason for Russians to react in such a manner? I don't know, because we have no evidence presented. The trial from the very beginning was made in secrecy, so that no information was released publicly. And till now, we strongly believe that Roman Sushchenko, who never recognized the accusations brought against him, he's innocent.
It seems to be very little in the way of evidence, certainly nothing that is available to the public. I mean, is this standard practice in Russia? And what can be done at an international level to maybe highlight that this is really not acceptable form of justice?
You know, unfortunately, we have a case, and Russia mostly don't care about international laws and violate them in all the occasions possible. What I see and what I know, that international community doing a lot to release not only Roman Sushchenko, but also all of Ukrainian prisoners staying now in Moscow, in Siberia, in Russian prisons. You know, it is not only the matter of Roman Sushchenko or Oleg Sentsov, their names are quite known, but there is dozens of other people who are suffering never less than those I mentioned. And then you are pressing, I mean, international community and the European community, pressing Russia to release political prisoners. You are doing a very good work, you know, because it is very important for them, it is very important for their families, and it is very important for justice, because they are innocent and they are just suffering for their love to Ukraine and for their actions to defend it.
You showed us some pictures of his family, his wife and his 2 children, who are very much involved in this campaign to free Sushchenko. How big is the campaign, and is it making an impact there?
It is a huge impact inside Ukraine, because we have journalistic organizations, and they voice very loudly for his defense. And in fact, we have already the international also journalistic organization defending him. Right now, we trying to do all the possible to move that message ahead inside Ukraine and also abroad. We right now making that presentation to attract attention of our European colleagues that problem still existing. It's very sounded in Ukraine, and we hope it will become more sounded in Europe, because we all share the common values. So there is no difference, are we Ukrainians or Belgians or Germans or somebody else.
And today we're in the Brussels Press Club in the heart of the EU's European quarter. and we're at an exhibition of his artworks. I think he's done these in prison. Can you tell us a bit about the pictures?
The story of these pictures is interesting very much because the personnel of prison did not allow him to paint with painter, so that he just did all these pictures with a simple pen and onion juice, and you can imagine how thin is his work and how how he tried to express his spirit in all these pictures. I believe that these pictures allowed him to survive in that circumstances under the humiliation and the huge psychological pressure. This is just an example when we see how the man could remain a human being even under the very tough and humiliating circumstances.
And can I just ask you, after perestroika, after freedom, after leaving the whole communist world, did you ever think again that you would see political prisoners in Russia, in Ukraine?
It is a difficult question. We never expected, in fact, that Russia will make an aggression against us in such a manner. It was shock for many people because obviously we have a lot of mixed families, for example, and we have very close relations. But it is exactly the reason why the Kremlin is so afraid of Ukraine and why they're trying to destroy us with such an efforts, because all our successes or failures are immediately seen in Russian society, so that our success is absolutely unacceptable for Russian President Putin. I can say that exactly, but we'll do our best to disappoint him.